Time for the 49ers Rush Podcast.
All right, guys, we're to number 83 on the 49ers roster countdown of 2023, and we've got a quarterback. There's a lot of quarterbacks on this team. Brandon Allen, the most recent addition to the quarterback room with the Brock Purdy injury and uncertainty there. He came in with an accumulative score of 400 total. Remember, the lower the score, the better. All five of our executive producers went through and ranked 1 through 91. Shay Wyatt, who was right before us, before Brandon Allen at 84, had a 411 score. So, again, lower the score, the better. That's where he comes out. Shout out to Captain Brian White, the man, the executive producer and researcher for this show. Now, Brandon Allen's interesting because he's been around the league for a very long time. He's going into his sixth season, so automatically puts him, veteran-wise, probably ahead of all three of the 49ers quarterbacks. He's older. Has not played in as many games as Sam Darnold, but definitely played in more games than Trey Lance or Brock Purdy. Now, if you just look at his athletic profile, I think that this is kind of what's important. Is it comes off the tape pretty. He's a tweener between all three of these quarterbacks. If you put Darnold and Lance and Purdy in a blender and you came out with the law of averages, I think this is what you're going to get. Brandon Allen, 6'1", 217, 31-inch arms. He ran his 40-yard dash in a 4.84. That's all right, not bad. 1.7 10-yard split, not great. 3 cones, really good. 7.06. He's got good change of direction. 28-inch vertical, not great. Broad, 110, not great. Now, mockdraftable.com, where it just measures all the measurables and compares them to players of their position. His closest comp in the NFL is Sam Howell at 88%, Jimmy Clausen 84%, Colt McCoy 83%, Baker Mayfield 83%. You kind of get the picture, right? These not gigantic pocket quarterbacks with a little bit of mobility and a little bit of grit to them. And that's who Brandon Allen is. He's entering into his 8th season, was drafted 2016. We'll get into that a little bit more. Now, he's an Arkansas boy. Played high school at Fayetteville High School in Arkansas, and then stayed in Fayetteville and played at Arkansas. So it didn't really travel a lot from high school to college. But once he got into the NFL, all that changed. Now, back at his time in Arkansas, the SEC, he kind of took over as a junior in 2014, and he was a baller, man. He was a very, very good college quarterback. I remember this. Texas, the Longhorns, hook 'em, baby. We got blown out in the Texas Bowl versus them, 31-7. He went out there and he played really, really well and kind of embarrassed Texas. Now, his overall stats, his junior year, 2,285 passing yards, 20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He's not blowing people out with this high prolific offense. It was a running game predominantly, but 20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, pretty damn good. Then his senior year in 2015, he threw 6 touchdown passes and ran in the game-winning 2-point conversion in an overtime win against Ole Miss, 53-52. 6 touchdown passes in one game, and that's the one thing that I remember. Back in 2016, we didn't have quarterbacks, so I went through and I did a lot of work on quarterbacks. I kept seeing just how streaky this guy was. When he's on, he's on. But you watch some of his bad tape, you're just like, ooh, this guy does not belong in the NFL. But then you watch his on fire tape, and you're like, okay, this guy could do something. And that's why he stuck around, right? I brought up the Ole Miss game, and here's what's crazy. 2 weeks later against Mississippi State, talk about somebody that hates the state of Mississippi. He threw 7 touchdown passes in one game, but he lost 51-50. He also broke Arkansas's record for career passing touchdowns. You look at his total numbers his senior year, 3,440 passing yards. That's good. 30 touchdowns. That's great. 8 interceptions. That's good. So finished 8-5, beat K-State in the Liberty Bowl. Pretty impressive career in the SEC. Played against top-notch competition, and I think this is one of the reasons why he's been able to hang on for so long is because he just kind of does enough, right? He's not pressing for starter reps. In this situation, he's quarterback 4 for the 49ers. And so he's a guy that teams kind of settle on, like, okay, this is a quality player, but we don't want him to be our number 1. Kind of don't want him to be our number 2 either. He gets drafted in 2016 by the Jaguars, 6th round, pick number 201. Now, I went back and looked at the quarterbacks in that draft. That was Dak Prescott draft. That was, all that stuff. He went 40 picks after Nate Sudfeld, who was on the Niners last year, and he went 6 picks ahead of the actual 49ers quarterback pick that year, Jeff Driscoll. You could tell it's a small world. Now, he's only started 9 games in 8 years. 2-7 record, not great. He's played in 15 games, all right. So I went through Pro Football Focus and just kind of did the best that I could to break down as much of his stuff as I could just to find something. His career stats, again, very mild. 10 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions. Not great, not terrible. 1,611 yards, 56% completion percentage, not good. 78 NFL passer rating, not good. 21 sacks, terrible. He did have 1 fourth quarter comeback and 2 game-winning drives in that small sample size. Now, where he adds just a little extra flavor is his rushing ability. He can move well. 33 rush attempts for 64 yards. 11 of those went for first downs. No rushing touchdowns, however. And so you've got a little bit of that grit. I would say he's probably more mobile in the rushing aspect than Brock Purdy. Not near as much as Trey Lance. Pretty close to Sam Darnold. Like, he's got them. Now, he doesn't have the short burst, right? He had a, what was his, I think it was a 1.7. Yeah, 1.7, 110 yard, whereas Brock Purdy had like a 1.5. So he doesn't have that quick, short area burst, but he can chew up some yards in the running game. Again, this cat is just the law of averages between the 3 49ers quarterbacks they already have, just with more experience. Now, I went through it, backup quarterbacks and number 3 quarterbacks are always interesting to me whenever you're looking at contracts because they usually make some money. This kid's made $5.6 million throughout his career. Not bad for only played in, 9 starts. 17 NFL transactions. That does not count promoting to the practice squad and bringing relegated back down, all that stuff. You go back to his rookie year. He spent the year on and off the the Jacksonville Jaguars roster as number 3. Never got any playing time. Second and third year, he was with the Los Angeles Rams. Same thing. Just being promoted number 3, never became number 2, and never saw playing time. Then in 2019, the second half of that year, the Broncos pick him up. And he played in 3 games. And the Broncos, they went 1-2 during that time. 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Nothing great, nothing bad. Just, bland vanilla milkshake. Like that. That's just. But it wasn't. But it was still good. He belongs in the NFL. It's just this is kind of the stage in his career where the ceiling is limited. What do you want with Brandon Allen if he's on your team? We lose 1 or 2 quarterbacks. You come in, don't lose us games. That's what he is. And the contract and all those things kind of reflect that. Now, sorry, before I get to the contract, for the past 2.5 years, he's been with the Bengals. He went 1-5 with the Bengals, 10 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Just when Burrow got hurt, he was competing for that backup spot, and he'd be in, then they'd switch back and forth, whatever else. The Niners signed him to a 1-year deal, $1.2 million, with only $200,000 guaranteed. This guy's not making the roster. I just don't see it. Even if Brock Purdy is on the PUP list to start the initial 53-man roster, which I don't expect, but it's a possibility, I still don't think that they keep him. I think this is a quarterback that is okay if gets claimed by others, but as, a number 3, he's a camp arm with upside. The upside is he's got starting experience. The other option the 49ers had was go with a rookie or undrafted free agent. They didn't want to do that. They wanted some experience. They didn't want to spend a lot more time on another raw prospect whenever you have, Purdy and Darnold and Lance, all people who are inexperienced. Sam Darnold's 25. He's played a lot, but he still needs time. So anyway, I understand why they went this veteran route. I like Brandon Allen. I don't think that he makes this roster. The best way that I see him to contribute to the Niners doesn't make the initial 53. Then the Niners do a swap. We've done this the last couple years where you have a guy that you want to keep but might be injured. So you put a player on the initial 53-man roster, then you put him on short-term IR, then you bring back Brandon Allen as that quarterback 3 for the first week. And that the biggest if here is Brock Purdy's on the PUP list. I think that's a 50-50 shot right there. I hope he's ready week 1, but this is the way forward for Brandon Allen making this team. Wouldn't make the initial 53-man roster, but then would be brought back immediately after they move somebody to short-term IR, something like that. So I think he'll end up being waived, and maybe you can get him on the practice squad, whatever else, and promote him, for game day stuff as just the emergency, whatever. But I don't see it. But this is Brandon Allen. I don't think it's a bad signing. I really, really don't. We have him number 83, and we're just going to keep counting him down.